My name is Jamie.
Hi, my name is Gabby.
Hi, my name is Sydney.
And we're here to talk about the hygiene hypothesis. Gabby, what is the hygiene hypothesis?
Well, according to Wikipedia, the hygiene hypothesis is a proposed idea that early childhood exposure to particular organisms like gut flora and helminth parasites protects against allergic diseases by contributing to the development of the immune system. It was first proposed by Strahan when he studied the correlation between incidences of allergies between children raised on either side of the Berlin Wall in the late 80s, which we will explore later. They also believe that a lack of exposure to certain microbes is thought to lead to deficits in the strengthening of the immune system and immune tolerance. The hypothesis narrows in on childhood exposure between when the fetus is gestational to when the child is school-aged. The hypothesis emphasizes the impact of too clean environments within Western culture, developed nations, and how our tendency to overdo it with decontamination procedures may be correlated with the rise of allergies and autoimmune disorders that we are seeing in children.
Sydney, what are the pros and cons of eliminating normal flora or common parasites?
Eliminating common parasites and normal flora can help lower the risk of sickness or exposure to harmful pathogens. These measures include decontamination of the water supply, pasteurization and sterilization of milk or other food products, vaccination against common infections, and the frequent use of antibiotics. The enactment of these decontamination procedures have effectively freed developed countries from conditions that are known to haunt countries with the trifecta, which is poor sanitation, poor hygiene, and lack of access to clean water. These diseases we see less frequently now in the US are cholera, polio, typhoid, giardia, dysentery, and cryptosporidium. And it has also helped minimize the damage or spread of epidemic diseases we haven't dealt with since the era of industrialization in the United States. These diseases still run rampantly in developing countries where they don't have access to the same decontamination measures, as we saw with the 2016 Yemeni cholera outbreak that came as a result of heavy rains, flooding, abrupt movement and dislocation of their population, and infrastructure issues as a result of internal government conflict.
Jamie, what are the cons of eliminating normal flora or common parasites?
Processes like pasteurization destroy harmful bacteria, but it also eliminates enzymes, vitamins, and kills the good bacteria that can aid in digestive health. Decontaminating the water supply is mostly beneficial, but it's not always consistent. Specific areas may decontaminate water to a certain standard, and your body can become accustomed to that standard. It is common that people from developed nations will travel to developing countries and become ill after drinking their local water supply due to a lack of exposure to the bacteria found within the country. The widespread and on occasional overuse of antibiotics in developing countries has led to an increase in case of antibiotic resistance. Strains of pathogens like Staphylococcus aureus or Mycobacterium tuberculosis have antibiotic resistant strains that are due to overexposure to antibiotics when they aren't absolutely necessary. Sydney, tell us some research into 2 clean environments.
According to Erica von Mutius, a pediatric allergist, a child's immune system needs education, just like any other growing organ in the human body. The hygiene hypothesis suggests that early life exposure to microbes helps in the education of an infant's developing immune system. Without this education, your immune system may be more prone to attacking the wrong target. In the case of autoimmune diseases, that would be you. To continue on with the aforementioned story of David Strahan, his research took place in the late 1980s when the USSR still had occupation of the eastern side of the Berlin Wall. He was studying incidences of childhood allergies and discovered that children raised on the eastern side, or the more polluted, dirtier half, had less allergies than the wealthier western side. He also determined that the wealthier children spent less time in public schools or crowded daycare centers and therefore weren't exposed to essential bacteria through other children that most kids need to build up their immune system.
Gabby, what is some further evidence?
Further evidence that a too clean environment could be hazardous has been explored by epidemiologists across the world. Correlations have been drawn that, number one, children raised on farms with constant exposure to agriculture, livestock, and dirt have lower rates of asthma or allergies. Number two, people who use antibacterial sprays or products containing triclosan have higher rates of asthma, allergies, or even hay fever. Number three, immigrants from developing nations where their exposure to these microbes are higher, having increasing cases of allergy or autoimmune disorders upon moving to developed countries. Number four, in 2008, a study was done on cesarean sections and they're tied to children with asthma. It was determined that when a baby goes through the process of manual labor, they're exposed to more microbes through the birth canal that can strengthen their immune system. Babies born to cesarean section had higher incidences of asthma. Their T cell counts were also observably lower than that of the babies were born through manual labor. Number five, a study was conducted in Uganda where there were two groups of pregnant women being studied. Pregnant women taking medication to treat parasitic worm infections and women who weren't. The children of the women taking the parasitic worm infection medication showed higher rates of asthma and atopic dermatitis. Jamie, do they impact allergies or autoimmune disorders?
Great question, Gabby. Decreases in helminth exposure due to increased sanitation have shown a correlation with increases in asthma and various other allergies, as well as autoimmune conditions like inflammatory bowel disease, type 1 diabetes, and Crohn's disease. The elimination of helminth infections by diligent deworming procedures have been shown to minimize suppression of the immune response, leading to more intense anti-helminthic responses and a worsening sensitivity to common skin allergies like the household or environmental dust mite. According to the epidemiological studies by Okada, Kahn, and Bach, they have revealed that schistosomia infections have a strong protective characteristic against atopy. Hookworms like Necator americanus have also shown to protect people from developing asthma. According to the same PubMed article, parasitic infections that have been almost eradicated in European countries since the Second World War correlated with the increase of atopy and allergy. Epidemiological studies have shown a correlation between overly sanitary conditions and type 1 diabetes or multiple sclerosis. In a recent study, plant allergens found in Africa have shown to have a crazy similar molecular structure to those with the genomes of helminths. Some of these helminths release what are called regulatory lymphocytes, cells that act like peacekeepers in the immune system by suppressing inappropriate immune responses. When the body doesn't have access to such helminths, sometimes the body can overwork itself and start having responses to a plethora of common allergens, making increased immune sensitivity a plausible outcome.
Now that we've informed you on the hygiene hypothesis, you can formulate your own opinions on whether you think environments are too clean or not.